Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Venziel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I kind of want to jump right into the conversation that we were having. With you being an athlete as long as you've been, when did you start understanding the body chemistry from a nutrition perspective, from a detox perspective? When did that become ingrained into your day-to-day? And also, do you wish you kind of had that information earlier in your career, and how do you think that would have affected your career?
I've been at the forefront of health my whole life. I was born premature. I shouldn't be alive. My parents, of course, I grew up wealthy, so I was very lucky. My parents supplied me with every supplement, every doctor, I did acupuncture. I was always taking herbs. I was always taking all these things. But my mother was a chef, and my parents are both very, very healthy. But I would say up until I won my world title is when I really started to focus. I got out of rehab, and I started to focus on my food, and I started to kind of run experiments on myself and other people. And then my daughter got sick. That was the big turning point. Forever it was myself and Shane Del Rosario. I was running, rest in peace. I was running experiments on us, trying to make sure that both of us as friends, when we were titles together, how can we perform better? And then when my daughter got sick, I had a nutritionist that was amazing. Eric Trilogy from Nutrition for Life. He works for the Paul brothers and Conor McGregor and all this stuff. So I always had him to turn to and ask questions about, whatever was happening in my body or my daughter's body. And at that same point, I was friends with Rogan. Rogan would call me and be like, "Hey, I got this thing for you to try with your kid," and it was great. It was nice to having people in my life to help me. And obviously, like many of us, his podcast, ushered me into learning more and more and more. My daughter got sick at 2 years old with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and this is when I was at the top of my game. And once they put my daughter on methotrexate, they put her on painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs. I mean, methotrexate is a chemotherapy drug. And for my 2-year-old to start having thinning hair, I was like, fuck this. This is disgusting. I talked to every smart person. The doctors that I went to for her, which Chalk Hospital, thank you, but kind of fuck you. The way they treated me was ridiculous. And I was bringing up cryotherapy, and I was bringing up all these things, and they literally laughed at me while I'm sitting with my kid in my arms. And one doctor after pulls me aside and goes, "Hey, will you let me know how that goes?" And I wanted to punch him in the mouth. Like, you were just giggling with your friends about how stupid I was, and now you want to know? I was like, we're good. So, of course, I kept the checkups with the doctors because she was inflamed. She couldn't walk. She couldn't think straight. They were draining her, and they were, having to give her ketamine because they were having to, inject her with things. And it was a really intense emotional experience. And I just went down the rabbit hole of autoimmune diseases. I had to heal my daughter. It was this, everything else took a back seat. And, for me, I grew up in the cannabis industry. It was something I've been around my whole life. My dad smuggled cannabis around the world in the 70s. He always taught me about the power of plant medicine. And I talked to some very smart people, and this was before Dr. Sanjay Gupta came out with his rebuttal on cannabis. And I started to give her, number one, it's diet and exercise. We cut out all carbs, we cut out sugar, We did all the basic things. And I started to give her a Rick Simpson oil. And getting a 2-year-old high is kind of funny, but kind of not, And of course, if she had a bad day, I would get baked with her and wouldn't go to the gym. And, it was a long road, but now I look back and I realize, I see how healthy she is as a person, mentally and physically. And I see a lot of her kids at her grade. They all have eczema. They all have issues. And I think a big part of her being so healthy is the fact that she had such a strict diet for those years of her life, where we also, we had her in homeschool. We had her from homeschool to private school. And now she's, flourishing in public school. We put her in a public school for the first time because she's 12 and we've programmed her the right way. We wanted to. So we think she can navigate life, as a young person. But it just took a lot of research. That's what I do for a living. I research things. I'm nonstop. I'm on vacation in Lake Tahoe, visiting family, and I get up every morning and go outside. I do breathwork and meditation out in the woods, and I listen to some podcasts, or I read something, or I read a book like this. It's my phone is sitting up. It's a constant search for meaning and healing and understanding. My scientific understanding is growing, but also the tools I have, peptides, stem cells. I'm sponsored by a stem cell company. I work with one of the best peptide labs in the world that's been around for a very long time. I have a group of scientists, actual real scientists, like really smart folks that have trained me to be this person. I can't thank them enough for pulling me aside and going, number one, like, who the fuck are you? Why are you speaking on behalf of our science or our psychedelics or whatever it is? I mean, Dr. Fadiman, I don't know if you know who that is, but it's the godfather of microdosing. Matthew Johnson, the first professor of psychedelics at Johns Hopkins. My ex-girlfriend was a UCLA professor and scientist. The list goes on. I had all these amazing people. Melissa Dawn. I'm sure you maybe don't know these names, but these are some of the greatest minds that our world has. And they saw me getting on HBO because of my blue check mark and my former fame. And they saw me in Forbes, and they saw me on all these big podcasts talking about science. And sure, it was, the buzzword was psychedelics, but even psychedelics are a huge anti-inflammatory. They work off your serotonin receptors, your 5-HT2A receptor pathway, and you have those in your skin, and you have them all over your body. So once those molecules go into your body, they drop the inflammation. And of course, there's a whole other process behind it, but I don't need to explain that. There's a lot of healing happening with things that come from outside. We don't need to take petroleum-based products to feel better because they have such a bad other side. You might want to kill yourself. You might shit yourself, but you might get better. Good luck, And then we have some arrogant doctor who is pushing this on us and making us feel like an asshole if we don't listen to them. And these people are riddled with debt from schools that are as we see now, are teaching them nonsense. They're working out books that are based around that petroleum model. It's like, I hate to say it, but doctors are becoming useless for the most part. And if they stick to their old ways, the ones that are evolving are obviously very smart individuals. They're not stupid people. They've just been lied to like the rest of us. So now I've got doctors coming to me asking questions. I've got therapists coming to me asking questions, and I take that with a lot of pride and honor, because I'm just a guy that learns some stuff. I tell people that all the time. Like, I'm not some fancy person. I just really put my nose to the grindstone and had to learn this, because first it was my daughter, and now she's here with me. We do some daddy-daughter vacations, and she jumping off cliffs yesterday and running around and working out and doing jiu-jitsu and surfing, snowboarding. I mean, she does everything very, 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 very well. and to see how healthy she is, it's incredible. But I applied that same science to myself when I retired. When I retired, I was very close for a very long time, multiple occasions of killing myself. You know, the silent killer of traumatic brain injury that leads to addiction, that leads to all these other, you know, really negative things that I was afflicted with. And man, even the UFC tried to help me. I mean, they were so good to me. They put me through transcranial magnetic stimulation and all these other therapies, and they just made them worse. Like I'm curled up in the ball, and I never cried. I'm on the floor in a fetal position, bawling my eyes out like daily, multiple times a day, because whatever chemistry was off, you know. So I looked at my life and I said, I can't kill myself. That's weak. I'm not weak. And I had my daughter. She's my everything. So I applied the science of her healing to me. And I started to learn about psychedelics more, because I had been taking psychedelics since I was 12. I mean, my first acid trip was at 12 years old. I started smoking weed at 8. And these things have never been bad to me. Never done me wrong. Of course, the heroin, fentanyl, Oxycontin, Adderall, Xanax, all that stuff did me very badly. And the dimethyltryptamine said, hey, it's time to retire. And this was, I think, before I even went to Japan to fight, and like just horrible results out there. But I went down that path, you know, and I started to listen to the people on Rogue. And I started to, not just the one person, but I would find a researcher, and then I would go to their constituents and their peers, and I'd read all their information, go down that rabbit hole. So then eventually, you know, I got to the peptides, and I got to all this stuff, and I just started to feel better. And I was physically healed or healing. You know, I got a real job for the first time in my life. I went pro at 18, and I was always, you know, making money other ways. So I was able to have like a real desk job. But I had a personal training job at a big fancy gym, and I was kind of able to interact with people and start to talk about what I knew. And everyone was blown away. Where most of my friends or my family wouldn't listen to me. They thought I was just stupid old me. They were just like, well, Ian's crazy. He's talking nonsense again. And now he's on mushrooms instead of Oxycontin. This is great. And it took a long time to turn people's opinion around. And I guess maybe it wasn't me. I was just on my soapbox screaming out loud, like, this is how we're going to heal the world. This is how we're going to heal. First and foremost, it was fighters. It was a selfish thing. It was, I see people like Phil Baroni, you know, killing their girlfriend allegedly in Mexico. And I love Uncle Phil. I'm the last time I was with Phil, I fed him a bunch of mushrooms and had a great time in Vegas, actually. But it doesn't shock me with steroids and drugs and TBIs and all these sort of things, you know, where that's what you do. You know, Mayhem Miller being crazy and going through all those sort of things. It's a lot of us, or Gary Goodrich is dying, literal, like he's literally dying in front of us from CTE. So when I was on HBO Real Sports back in 2020, I gave Dean Lister a mushroom ceremony. And David Scott, the interviewer, asked me, because I was talking about how my best friend died in my arms, you know, from partying himself to death, but because of all these issues, one of my other best friends, you know, Justin Levins, killed himself, and then killed his wife first, and then killed himself. And I was the first one on the scene. My coach Jeremy Williams killed himself. I can't let that happen to anybody else. I know it's going to, but of course David Scott says, okay, well, you know, do you think he could save the rest? It's just like, oh man. And I just finished a 5-gram mushroom trip, and he's trying to talk to me. So of course I lost my shit. And I said, I'm going to try. You know, I'm gonna try my best to help, at least be a light in the dark, at least be that person that will not stop talking about this. I know it gets annoying to some of my friends and family members, but they'll deal with it. You know, this is my life's work. You know, it's helping bring about a change in sports, and not to dampen sports. I mean, the UFC's dampened enough. It's become an actual sport. Most of these kids have no personalities. They're not like we used to be. But they're way better athletes. They're way healthier. What's missing is savagery that I come from, but it's probably a good thing. It is. It's that craziness leads to bad decisions and not the best role models in the world. Yeah, now we're here. When I have my nonprofit, Athletes Journey Home, the UFC said recently that they can't work with me anymore because they went public, and that's fine. I don't need them anymore. My friends are like, well, fuck them. I'm like, whoa. I still like free tickets. Don't blow that. They're still my friends. The big business can't work with me because I'm this crazy person that's doing crazy things. I get it.
But you're not though. And see, listen, man, like everything that you first of all, man, thank you for sharing all of that and your transparency. And like, I resonate with what you said so much, because once you have the kind of impact that's happened like in my life and obviously in yours, you can't not talk about this stuff. I feel like I'm doing a disservice when I don't communicate this out and stand on my soapbox and scream it to the masses. And like, going to shift back really quickly to some of the verbiage that you use, like I programmed my daughter the way that I wanted to program her. And I think that it was a better thing. And what Christina and I do with our son, Charlie, is like, we're programming him the way that we want to program him. And I think a lot of these doctors that are missing the ball out there, it's not like an intentional malicious thing a lot of the time. It's just that they weren't programmed properly, and it's people like you. And then, and you have a much larger platform than I do, or more eyes on you. But like, I'm out here screaming from the rooftops too about like, we need to make this shift. We need to stop looking at this stuff as like a drug and an actual medicine that's going to completely change the pharmaceutical paradigm that we've been under, this rock for so long, not realizing the potential of what this stuff is capable of, man.
Yep. Yeah. I do own part of a pharmaceutical company. I do, still work. I do consulting for some brands, and for a while, that's all I was doing. And the psychedelic industry, the industry itself, treated me up and spit me out and abused me and used me and took my money, and it sucks. It does, because there shouldn't be an industry around this. The only industry that should be there is the illicit market providing medicine for people. And maybe mass production of mushroom bars isn't the best idea, but it's not a bad idea. It's just, it's like, it's going to happen because humans consume things and they like alter states of reality. But I remember after, I went to the UFC in 2019 for a study with psilocybin and Johns Hopkins University. And I did it. I got to sit in front of the UFC. Granted, I did. I had my girlfriend who Elena Marinkovic. She's a scientist for Serbia, and 6 feet tall and gorgeous. And I parked her in front of Jeff Davitsky. Jeff said, "Hey, you're crazy. We're trying to do CBD studies with you. That's enough. But psilocybin's you're nuts." And I was like, "No. I have scientists I'm working with. Hold on. I'm working with I have the FDA. I have Johns Hopkins. We're good." So he said, "Cool. That's what I need. So come out to Vegas." They got me tickets, and I parked her in front of Jeff after the fights, and she sold it. And he had tons of literature. Obviously, as a professor, she brought so much stuff. And they had to turn it down because it was 2019. 2020 happened. I got Dean Lister on Real Sports. I sent the video to Dana, and Dana was one of the first 3 people probably to text me back and congratulate me over my family, over friends. I didn't get nice messages from somebody. And people that love me were like, "You're a fucking idiot." Well, a couple of days later, Jeff Davitsky reaches back out and goes, "Hey, we want back in." That still fell apart because bureaucracy or whatever happened. It wasn't even a TBI study. It was like a PTSD study. So that didn't work. University of Miami came to me and said, "Hey, let's do another study." And it was TBI. It was perfect, but that fell through because of money. I don't know how the University of Miami doesn't have enough money to pull this off, but that's just how it is. So I kind of dropped trying to study mushrooms because just like that pharmaceutical company that I own part of is called Wisana, with Daniel Garcia and Mike Tyson and them. They have the first 4 patents or had the first 4 patents on psilocybin stuff. And it's like, you can't create IP off of something that grows in every field in the country at a cow shit. Everyone has access. This is not cool. And I probably shouldn't say that about a company I own part of, but it is what it is. It's true. And sure, they're doing other great things. I'm not poo-pooing the company because they're actually trying to make a change. And we need people like Daniel Garcia dealing with the FDA and that whole gross system. But now, I'm the door's open. People know there's so much research going on, whether it's with TDI like myself or autism, the people at Autism on Acid. I was just in a documentary and we're going to be hosting a party soon to, obesity, depression, anxiety, all this sort of stuff. You're going to see a huge advance in all that. I've had MS patients. I have cancer patients. I have, my cousin just died of ALS and I was feeding him a lot of mushrooms over the last 2 years of his life. And it gave him, it gave him a sense of stability in life and just happiness from someone that was really angry and kind of a dick his whole life, to be honest. And I wanted to pour a whole vial of acid in his mouth before he died, but my family wouldn't let me. That's how I'm going to be sent out is like 1,000 hits. So is my dad.
Aldous Huxley, like Aldous Huxley went out on an LSD trip, man.
Exactly. And my dad, my brother, and I all kind of have that. Like, look, there's in my safe, there's a bottle that says death on it. And I want you to take that out and I want you to put it in my mouth if I'm ever in a hospital bed like that. I know where I'm going when I die. I'm going to paradise, like Mike Tyson said. But all this stuff is working. And finally I was able to drop the mushroom side of it. And I turned around one day and I met the guys from Onaya Science. And now on my team, on my board of directors, I have the first PhD of ayahuasca. I have a psychopharmacologist. I have Dr. Wei Feng, who just gave a TED Talk in China about ayahuasca. He's been on NPR. Like, I have the coolest team of researchers behind me. Young, hungry people that are at the forefront of this. And they said, do you want to study ayahuasca? Because my nonprofit comes from the Heroic Hearts Project. And the Heroic Hearts Project, Jesse Gould and the people over there, I took everything from that. With Jesse said, please take everything I have and use it. Because I wish I would have listened to him a few years ago. He was like, you need to create a nonprofit. You're not a doctor or scientist. This is the way you're going to do your science. This is what you're good at. And this is how you're going to affect the most people. So now we are raising money for our first ever study. We are the first group of people that will go down. I won't be able to study their brains in depth like I want to, but this is for a content creating mission. I've got 8 athletes that are all world-class, world champions that are going to go down. And my team can't do the research because we haven't applied to the ethics board yet. We haven't put everything completely together, but I can study them because, again, not a doctor or scientist. So I've got imaging, I've got things here in the US that I can do with them that are going to be very beneficial. But more or less, the data is, I obsess over the data because I have to bring the data to someone like the UFC later on in life. Once I collect it, I have to bring the data to Harvard, Columbia, and Rochester, all these schools that want me to speak in front of them because I get to speak in front of faculty, which is neat. But the more important thing over data is the stories of these athletes, men and women that are world-class.
You got it, dude. Hey, listen, we need to we need to talk because what I reached out to you about before, and I can't say where on this podcast, but this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And we will have all of the equipment. We'll have the doctors. We'll have the scientists. I'd love to collab with anybody that you're working with.
Yeah.
But let's go down and let's utilize.
To be hooking people up to EEGs and studying their brain before, during, and after.
This is what we're doing. We're doing TBI studies, man. We need to work together, bro.
Yes. This is a community we need to build.
100%.
And for our study, I didn't want to leave any box unchecked. We're studying the human genome. We're doing Finkel testing, blood, brain, electricity, imaging. I mean, everything that I can do, I'm going to do. And it's expensive so far. We've calculated out to about $10,000 a person. That's just to get everything done. And it's steep, but it's not impossible to raise that money and to build an ecosystem that facilitates that for people, because much like the veteran model, I want a constant stream of athletes coming through this, because the first athletes that are going through it are going to coach the rest of the athletes, or at least have an opportunity to do it. I built a mentorship program, helping build a mentorship program with my mentor who ran SEAL Team 6 for 20 years. He's the guy that brought jiu-jitsu into the Navy, Jason Henderson, black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu, boxing in the Navy. I'll be studying his big brain. But we have all the pieces in place, all the people getting ready to do what they do. I've got race car drivers and X Games gold medalists and world champions and fighters of all types and surfers. I have a 2-time world champion in barrel racing, and with horses, who now is a supermodel. One of my really good friends, Cheyenne, and she's got major TBIs, and I didn't. She's like, "How did you know I have TBIs?" And I was like, "Sweetheart, you're one of my closest girlfriends, and I see your issues. I see the addictive tendencies. I see what you're doing. Like you have TBI issues, and you can see them if you know them. If you know what to look for, you can see it in a lot of people. And I want this information to get out there, because it doesn't have to be athletes. This information is just a cool story for people to listen to, because athletes need hope. Athletes, as nobody wants to listen to doctors or scientists anymore, they want to listen to people like me with blue check marks, because it's the pollination effect. These athletes will go out and pollinate all the ears and all the minds with the good information, because this information will help with all those neurodegenerative diseases, whether little Billy gets hit in the face with a baseball, grandma hits her head in the bathtub. These things can help everybody. It's not just one subset of people.
Thinking about the career of being a fighter and having these events where you're putting in days and days and days and weeks and months of work for one night, and having to go through that cycle for years and years and years. I mean, fighting since you were 18 years old. Not only the CTE aspect of it, but how does that affect the dopamine when you have the night of, like, just this huge dopamine dump after an event like that, win, lose, or draw, waking up the next day, the day after that? Like, give people perspective on that. Like, what is it like?
It is a drug that is unlike any other. And I've abused every drug in the world till it hurt. It is something that I sometimes miss. It's this absorption of everyone else's energy. You're in a giant building with 20, 40,000 people, whatever the number is, and they're there to see you. Whether you're in Brazil and they're chanting "You're gonna die," or you're in Ireland and they're screaming your name, America, wherever it is, you absorb this energy, and it stays with you. If you become a being of light and love like myself, it's easy to access that feeling. So I as much as I kind of miss it, kind of don't, because it's still here. And that's taken a lot of work, because usually you have this crazy dump after, and you have some sort of detox period where you climb into a cage in your underwear and you fight people for blood money on replay. You give and receive PTSD the whole time. And if you hurt somebody, put somebody in the hospital like it's your job to do, you get something called TITS, pardon my verbiage, but it's trauma-induced trauma syndrome. And that carries a lot of weight. Go back to the SEAL Team 6 guys that I work with. I get to help serve these people medicine and keep them safe. And the amount of, these these team guys have killed thousands of people, literal thousands of people for patriotism. And I get to hear all the stories of men, women, and children that met their demise with their hands. And it's war. Fuck those people. Those people are trying to kill you. I don't feel bad or anything. But being able to extract that out of people and pull it out, I'm sure it gets in here sometimes, and I have to detox off it myself. But it's this rush that we get risking our lives. Whether it's battle, whether it's football, whether it's fighting, it's relatively the same. And trying to teach people after fighting or after the military, after whatever sport it is, what's next? How are we going to get this to this? How are we going to get to flow? Now, my mentor coach, Lindsay Briner, she works with a bunch of billionaires in the Silicon Valley, works with Deepak Chopra and all these amazing researchers, Dr. Joe Dispenza, studying energetics. And she's like, look, Ian, you cannot reach those states anymore. It's over. That's not flow state for you. Yes, you reached flow state at that point, but that's not healthy. So it's about teaching these athletes and these veterans to find stabilized flow, to find this natural flow that it makes you unencumbered by the nonsense of your day. Like for me, just now before this, I was out on the lawn, and I'm in the woods. So I'm, sitting on the grass. I meditated, I did breath work, meditation, prayer, gratitude, and forgiveness. And that's my morning routine. And when I don't do that, I don't have stabilized flow. I don't have the grounding and the sunlight and all these things that everyone's all hip to now. And it's just about teaching them that they no longer need that drug, that they can find happiness through other simpler ways. And if you're a smart person, you have tools like jujitsu. For me, like, all my girlfriends know, or all my few women that I do, spend time with, know that, like, if I don't do jujitsu pretty much every day, I'm not the happiest version of me. Like my daughter knows, like, yeah, go. You're being annoying. Like, beat it. Like, go choke your friends every single day. And that it also comes down to a life of service. These athletes, they don't know anything else. So for them to go get an normal job, it just doesn't work. So I try and tell them, you need to go back in your industry. And the amount of the influx of athletes that are coming through psychedelics, we need coaches, because I didn't have a coach. And I fucked up real bad, really, really bad when I went through. I didn't do the Aaron Rodgers, and I didn't go into Super Bowls. I went crazy and I sold my house. So it was the pandemic. So I went a little nuts and I made some bad decisions, and I've been trying to fix it ever since. Been trying to put all these pieces in place so other athletes don't have to go through what I did. They can have they can have their choice of what sort of coach they want, who they resonate with, and amazing people like Cain Velasquez, Rashad Evans, and Boss Root, and you have these people who are starting to come down the pipe of being a coach, or at least just being these amazing individuals that can drop some knowledge on you, philosophize with. Yeah, so we're building an ecosystem for this ultimate.
Bro, you rock, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know we've sat down and we've talked with you so many times now, and I didn't know all of this about you. So it was really nice to learn as much as I did about you and your background and who you are. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, man. Like, and creating this, this network and this organism that's going to continue to keep on growing and helping people heal. I mean, listen, man, it's like people with a voice like yours that's actually going to be able to reach the masses, that's going to, and all of these athletes that wouldn't trust somebody else. I mean, like, listen, like, it's like, everybody has their demographic, it's like a lot of people that, and I know that you had a little bit of this too, but like, like with the substance abuse issues and stuff like that, like people trust me because they know I've walked the walk or whatever. But like, for you to be an athlete of your caliber and be standing on your soapbox and being like, hey, listen, like, you don't, like, we've basically maybe not so much lied to, but the truth has been hidden from us. And And I tell people, it's like, I feel like I've struck gold, you know, and it's like, or like I was like, you know, with Paul Revere when he was going around and telling everybody the British were coming. And it's like, I feel like Paul Revere of psychedelics, basically. And I'm like, hey, listen, you've got to listen to me. This stuff really works and it saved my life. And so I really commend you, man. I have so much respect for you, brother.
Thank you. This is my life of service. You know, I had everything at one point. I was a superstar, you know, and I had everything at my fingertips and I lost it all. I mean, I'm still alive. My life is still amazing. But I just want to use my life as a cautionary tale of what not to do.
You're a true alchemist, man. You know, listen, like you transcended you went through the dark to become the light, and now you're living a life of service. I mean, that's what I really feel like this is about. You know, the synchronistic flow of the evolution of everything, and you had to go through that darkness so you can be one of the brightest lights out there, man.
Yeah, and my life of service continues. I'm on vacation with my kid, and I went to dinner last night with a vet that is having suicidal ideations. No, it's a friend of a friend. I've met him before, and they're like, "Man, it's so crazy you're doing this right now." And I'm like, "This is what I do." My daughter would tell me, "No, you need to go to dinner with him. You can miss a family dinner to go and help this person because it's important."
I'm interested to get the perspective of when you have this identity of being a fighter for so long and being rewarded in so many different ways for that identity, when you have to transition out, and when in your case, it's beautiful to see the way that you've been called to this new aspect of what you do. But for other fighters that have to make that transition, what makes it so hard to reshape your identity coming from something like MMA fighting?
It's all you know. When you are on the path to greatness, to achieving just one world title like I had, not 12 like some people that I know, you lose or you never gain at all the life skills that normal people have, taxes and all those sort of stuff, like normal, just everyday things. And when you retire, you have one last set of ceremonial, goodbyes, maybe some checks if you're lucky. And then your agent isn't calling. You don't have your, unless you're coaching and you're in the gym, which you should be. Most of us just leave. Okay, bye, I'm done. I'm not going to be part of the team anymore. So you lose your friend group. You lose these brothers and sisters you've bled with and sweated with and cried with for the last how many years. And it's like you don't need to be cast out in the world, but that's what we do to ourselves. It's just it's weird, and we need to do a better job of letting those people know that no, you stay here, and you find a new way to work in this space. You find new ways to help your community, because we have to steward these kids, these young athletes that are coming up, because as amazing as Connor is, he's a crazy person. He's kind of a douchebag. Like, that's not a good view of a martial artist. It isn't. I'm sorry. And like, Connor's always been really nice to me, but that ecosystem that he's put himself in, that he's built, he's only going to probably get worse. Again, I did see him hug a tree the other day. That made me really happy. I've been trying to feed Connor mushrooms for a long time. And, whenever I ask, they go, there's different things you should bring that Connor wants. And I'm like, oh, it's Connor. Because when you do enough partying, you realize everyone's annoying on cocaine. And I don't know if you've seen him hanging out with like Ronaldo and stuff. He's like pointing in his face and yelling at him. Like, I don't want to hang out with anyone that's like that. And we need to, I like the one model a lot. The respectful martial artist. Yeah, as I teach my athletes and my fighters, you carry yourself as a black belt, even if you're not one, on the mat and off the mat. I'm giving you tools to make you a better person. So that means you are better than the average person. You're a protector. You have to act a certain way. And if you don't, I will hear about it, and you'll come here and I'm going to kick the shit out of you. You don't take advantage of people. You protect people. you are constantly being a better version of yourself. I mean, I read philosophy after every class, and just trying to give these people peace of mind. You know, I've got from middle school people to kids to high school and so on. It just takes work. You know, it just takes examples like myself to be there and to show them the light. You know, we're not to get too off of the weeds here, but there's a spiritual war coming of good and evil. There is, and it's upon us, and we have to be ready for it. We have to understand who's, you know, if you're going to be a good person, be a good person. It's time.
I agree, man. I think that, you know, listen, like you need to stand in the light and show that. I heard this. It wasn't like a saying, but it was basically an analogy of because like basically what we're talking about is transcending duality, you know? And so like there's this image that from a story that popped in my head, and it's like, it talks about this guy where, you know, on the left side you have the dark, and then on the right side you have the light, and then there's a fence like right in the middle, right? And the problem is that what people don't realize is that when you're sitting on the edge of the fence, you're still living in the dark. You know what I'm saying? That fence is still attached to the dark. And it's like, so you actually have to get on the other side of that fence and embody loving energy. I mean, and like, I think that, you know, like Dr. Berber talks about all the time at our clinic. He's like, you know, listen, man, he's like, you know, love is the healing force. The answer is always love. And I think that when you, and that's one thing that I talk about, like when we talk about this, like the spirit, the duality, this like, you know, spiritual war or whatever, like people want to put the label of it on, is that I really feel like this is one war that can only be won with love.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I was born in the dark.
Yes.
I spent my whole life there, being in the fridge, and I work well in the dark. I do. There's a very good, there's purpose there. You know, we have a lot of stuff to do in the dark, but we can't live there. We have to live a life of light and positivity, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the dark. There's a lot of things to be healed that are in there, and I don't mind going there, you know, whenever I have to with the people that I do, to help them come out of it. You know, to be, I like to call myself the boatman. You know, in ancient philosophy, you know, whether it's Egyptians or the Vikings or the Greeks, they all had some version of the boatman that takes these people from the dark to the light, from this world to the next. And I ferry them one way and ferry them back safely. And that's a great honor of mine, is to be able to land them safely back on the light side and just give them opportunities to grow on that side. Because most of us, we're so used to, that's the way we turn. When things happen, we turn to the dark side. You know, we don't turn to light usually. We turn into the dark and we go into our addictions and our you know, self-absorption and all these negative side of things. And that's not the way anymore.
Well, you know, it's funny, man, because it's like going back to what you said about people are like, hey, man, you know, you're not a doctor, you're not a scientist, you know, even though you study all of this stuff. I get that stuff all the time too. And the fact is that when you're in a world of helping people heal, though, I want to go with the guy that was in the dark, that actually made his way out of the dark. You know, it's like one thing I can do is like, you know, I have a blueprint for what worked for me, and it seems like you do too. And now we're like sharing that blueprint with other people and being, hey, this is what worked for me, leading by example, and not just standing on a soapbox and telling people, hey, you know, this is what you should do, or like, but like, hey, this is what worked for me and it could probably work for you too. Like that to me is more valuable than the person who's just telling you from a textbook, hey, this is what the science says, this is what supposedly works. It's like, no, you're the walking embodiment of what works, man. So I really like, I got a lot of respect for you, brother.
Thank you. It's leading by example for me, for sure. I had to show them over and over again that I wasn't that same person, that I have changed. And it took time, and it's going to take more time. Like my ex-wife still hates me. And that's fine.
I get it, man. Hey, wait, listen. So half of my family's proud of me, and half of them still think I'm nuts. And it's like, listen, man, I've always been nuts. I'm just a different kind of crazy these days. You know what I'm saying? It's like a positive crazy.
Exactly. It's about showing people this isn't a drug culture.
No,
a drug. This is a culture of healing. And sure, I still push the boundaries. As I like to say, that a good science is irresponsible science, and by irresponsible, it's doing things without the framework of schooling or whatever. My bare knuckle boxer, Mark the Shark Irwin, he won a world title last year on 7.5 grams of mushrooms.
Wow.
That's great.
I was on 5 in his corner, and we're speaking telepathically, and it was this wild, but we're still alive. He's fine. And if you saw both of his fights last year, major TDIs in both of them. The fight that he lost in December, they should have lost that fight, but he ended up in the hospital. And as a coach, I want an athlete like myself that's willing to die for me in there, willing to put it all on the line, but to see it almost transpire, and after you'll sit and hold his hand in the hospital bed while his head's this big and his jaw's broken and his nose is busted and his ears falling off, and like that was a wild experience. Want to talk about PTSD? He's like my little brother. But that I'm going to continue to push the boundaries of what we're doing, and I've got athletes in the UFC that are taking LSD and mushrooms. I've got athletes in all sorts of sports that are doing this, because like I do, I push things. I push the boundaries as far as I can. And ask for forgiveness, not permission, because someone has to do it. Someone has to take a chance, whether that's with the healing side or the sports side or whatever it is. There has to be someone like myself that does this.
Listen, I agree. And like, even when we're talking about pushing boundaries and stuff like that, like, listen, man, I did have addictive traits for a lot of years in my life. And one of the things that the addictive traits did to me was actually make me, like, I took like serious macro doses of psychedelics, like deep dives to infinity, basically,
and beyond.
And the thing is that, like, I actually think that was necessary. I mean, like, I'm a huge fan of that for people. I don't think I would be where I'm at in my life if I wouldn't have done those deep dives. And that's why, like, at our clinic, we really consider ourselves in a responsible way, but like more of a deep dive facility, because, it is the journeys off into the ethers where you really bring back all of this spiritual and universal knowledge, and
bring it back, but then you can also let go of everything that's held you back in the past. I mean, look at that one lady that we've just treated that totally transformed. She couldn't even smile before her treatments. She couldn't even look us in the eye. She brought us all gifts the other day and hugged us, and she was smiling and happy. Totally different woman.
She had the darkest energy to her, man. Like, people were like even a little bit nervous. One of our nurses was like, I don't know if we should treat her. And I'm like, no. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. I'm like, this is going to be one of the biggest transformations that we ever see. And honestly, she did her last treatment yesterday. She looks like a completely different woman, and was smiling and glowing, and brought everybody candles and rocks and stuff like that. And like, or crystals, sorry. And like I was just like, it was like I was looking at a completely different woman. But like, we sent her on some deep dives, man, and it's just like, I think that's really necessary. That leads me into a question I want to ask you, because it's controversial, and or not controversial, but maybe within the industry, and I have my own opinions, but like, I mean, maybe not from maybe from more of like a biased frame of mind because I am such a fan of the deep dives. What do you think about microdosing compared to deep dives and things like that? I mean, listen, I'm a fan of whatever works for people, and I think that, you know, that microdosing can be very beneficial for people. But like, what is your opinion on all of that, man?
Microdosing is a Band-Aid. It's the best Band-Aid you can have. Really is. It's incredible. Like, you know, moms on mushrooms, that whole group. Like, I want moms to be microdosing just because my generation's full of moms taking pills and drinking wine, and that's not good for anybody. I want moms raising our kids on mushrooms. I do, because I understand how well it is, or how good it is for the community. But I'm a deep dive kind of guy. Like, people ask me, why would you take 20 grams of mushrooms? And I said, because I need to, because again, good science is irresponsible science. And every big name researcher in the game, as they're pulling me aside and asking me why I'm speaking for science, why I'm speaking on behalf of them, you know, we went down the rabbit hole of who I am and what my ethics are and my intentions. And then they always said, hey, have you done 20 yet? I was like, no. Why? And they said, just let me know when you do. Well, the first time I did 20 grams, I was in the jungle with a Mazatec shaman. I was with Maria Sabina's niece. And yeah, it was the most life-changing experience I've ever had. And people always want to say that ayahuasca is stronger than mushrooms, and you're just not taking enough mushrooms. That's all it is. And it was the most incredible experience. You know, I had been through a lot. I watched someone very close to me, you know, jump out of a window in front of me. I went through some heavy things, and I needed it. And I went through the whole process. And in the end, you know, my daughter visited me on the trip, told me everything's going to be okay. And, you know, I had to apologize for a lot of things that happened. And she said, everything's going to be fine, Daddy. You know, and she brought me my son, my unborn son, which I've now met 3 times on visions, and not always 20 grams. I met him on 2 grams. But I know his name. I've had conversations with this energetic being. He hasn't come to life yet. But when I'm ready as a person, as a father, then I know that my son was coming. And it's that, I mean, yeah, that was so profound. And now my daughter and I, just like my fighter and I, we have these weird telepathic moments where she won't even know that I'm talking to somebody, and she'll come in the room and ask me about it. I was like, what? Like, how did you know that was happening? And she's the one that set me on the journey in the first place. She came to me and said, hey, Daddy, you know, you have a lot of work to do. She was like 7 at the time. She goes, you have a lot of work to do. You need to go to the jungles and do your medicine. I was like, have you been reading my emails? How do you know that I'm talking about this? And I just didn't even think about it. And then she showed up that night in the journal. And then she had a dream when I got home a couple weeks later. She had a dream and she was with me that night. So it was, you know, these medicines do incredible things, really, really, really incredible things. And I'm a huge advocate of deep dives, but when someone's ready, you know, I tell people, you want to be a hero, start with 5, go in your bedroom, lay down in the dark with an eye shade on, with music, have a trip sitter, you know, right, here's some homework, have your intentions, like do it the right way. And then you can start to modulate up, and you can, you know, you can either be alone or you can have fun and do 10 grams with your friends, you know, but in a safe set with a lover or whatever. Or you can go to our church on the reservation in San Diego. It's the Church of the People for Creator and Mother Earth, run by Shoal Norte, who's, you know, First Nations people. He's on the board of directors at Teacher of Nature. And, you know, you can go, and it's free, by the way. If anyone needs help in San Diego or anywhere, you want to fly into San Diego, it's free ceremony on sovereign land, where it's legal with native peoples, and we do deep dives from 10 to 20 grams routinely in there. Then you have sweat lodge the next day, so there's a whole process behind it. And yeah, there's people out there. There's people in places to go that are going to get free work. But make sure you have a coach, make sure you have someone that's going to hold you accountable through this process. They're going to give you some sort of homework to do, because we need that. I tried to do it myself and didn't work out that well. So I highly recommend reaching out to someone that you know in the space. It doesn't have to be me. It can be whoever. If you want to sit with a yoga teacher that talks about chakra, light, love, and energy, go for it. That's fine. But just make sure that you feel comfortable and safe, because it's a huge part of it, is feeling safe.
Just talking about elevated states, for the person that hasn't experienced the walk, can you bring the average person who will never experience that type of sensation what that feeling is? Because you're talking about, we talk about a lot of anxiety and things that everyday people go through. Very rarely are you in a situation where you're faced with literally being locked in a cage and not being able to get out until the fight's over, and having to walk with thousands of people either cheering you or booing you. What is that moment like?
Oh, man. I'll go back to when Burt Watson used to work for the UFC. Burt Watson was the handler of all the fighters. And you'd hear him coming down the hall. Yeah, baby. All right. Ian McCall, you better get ready. Oh, he's this old black guy who is so charismatic and one of the greatest people to ever help in fight sports. And you're downstairs, you're in the bowels of the building, and you're getting ready, you're hitting pads, you're sweating, you're relaxing, you're watching the fights. And I'm usually taking a nap under like a bench or something, just to kind of get out of my head. And he kicks the door open, you have cameras in your face, and all of a sudden it turns on. And for me, it was just a moment to just scream, get ready for war, and just make them hear your battle cries. And then you start to walk out and you hear the fight is ending and the screams and cheers and everything. And then you're waiting right in front of where you walk out. Your music sets in and more battle cries, and you walk out, and it's this, like, it went back to that energetic absorption. You get so high, and your eyes just whoop, and your body's just on fire. And you go out there. And not always. Sometimes you fall flat and feel like shit. Sometimes the octagon jitters hits you and you just don't do anything. You get yelled at after. But when you perform well, you go out there and it's hard to put into words the actual feeling. It's this you're so adored by people, or hated, either one. And you're getting all this energy, and then you have to get in there and you have to block it all out. You have to be centered and at peace with this fact that you might die right now. Like, that's the exciting part. Like Justin Gaethje said not long ago, what are you going to do after the fight? I have no idea. I don't plan on surviving. Before every match, every fight, I would write goodbye letters to my family. And this isn't something I've done. This is Enson Inouye, old fighter, Yamato Damashi from Pride, from Japan. I stole from him, and I'm sure he took it from somebody else. And it's a process. You go out there and you're ready to die. And if you're not ready to die, you don't belong there. Because you've got people from other countries that come from way worse circumstances that would gladly beat you to death in front of everybody for that money and that gold. So you have to take that with a serious grain of salt. You have to get ready to go out there and try and kill this person. At least I was. I'm not here for sport. For me, violence was the answer. And I did a podcast like a few months ago where they're like, yeah, we miss you. We miss your intensity because people don't fight like that anymore. And it's true. Most of them. There's a few left that are still real savages.
Who on the roster right now do you say has that like real savage in them?
I hate it. Scares the shit out of me.
Crazy.
Right. He grew up in the jungle, and he's probably shot arrows at rival tribes. Like, who knows what that guy's seen? You have the Dagestanis and the people from war-torn countries where death is just death. It's part of life. and they come from just different beginnings. Not everyone is like me, where they come from the 1%. That doesn't usually create fighters. But it's the places people were raised, the things they've seen really impacts. What made you be a fighter in the first place? It wasn't a good life. It wasn't this happy, go lucky sort of thing that happened. Sure, my life was pretty great, but I can get into what made me be this person. I really have to. But it's trauma. That's what it is. And it's the amount of trauma, I think, leads to greater success.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, man. This was awesome, brother.
Thank you.
It was. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you what you're doing to help people heal. I mean, I can most definitely say the world is a better place with you in it, brother.
Thank you. That's my goal, is to be the best version I can be. And and we're all in this together. This is a group effort. I can't do this alone. That's how I don't want to do it alone.
And I think that's a problem with the community, though, right now, is that it's so separate and everybody just needs to come together rather than play in their own pools of sand.
Listen, man, I talk about this, and it's not the one thing, but one of the most profound things that I learned on deep dives from using psychedelics is that we're all one, that we're all one collective consciousness. And I think that was one of the kind of disheartening things about the industry when I first tapped into it was it didn't have, I told Christina, I was like, this is going to be great. And everybody's going to love each other and it's all about oneness and whatever. And it was almost the opposite. It was just a lot of spiritual narcissism and I'm God, or I'm the guru and I'm going to teach you and stuff like that. And it's just whatever, man. But I'm happy that we met, and I'm happy that the universe put us in each other's paths like this because, listen, man, we'll talk more after this, but I definitely think we can do a lot of great work together.
Thank you. Yeah. I tell people it's the great enlightenment. It's not the enlightenment. It is, and it's no longer, I'm half white, so I can say whatever I want. It is, it's unhappy. It's I get to make fun of people. And I say this in jest. It is well-intentioned Westerners of all colors now. It's not just white people, who are, it's colonization, 5.0 without the violence. It's this godless spiritualism that is leading people to just, it's like mental masturbation, and they want to talk, well, what medicines have you done? It's just God damn it!
My medicine is
my medicine's better than your medicine, and your medicine's synthetic, and mine's natural, and this and that. Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that term. I've never heard that before. Godless spiritualism. That right there hit the nail on the head for me, man.
Yeah, and everybody out there, you don't have to wear white linen and dress like a Jedi.
Yeah. Thank you.
I said that on the last show, and I felt like I was going to get so much crap for it, man. And she's like, you shouldn't have said that. And it's but it's the truth, bro. It's, and you know what, man? I swear, listen, I am not talking badly about anybody, but the fact is the more feathers and beads I see, the more I probably don't trust you almost. It's this neon shaman that's not, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into that, but yeah.
Yeah. It's the Illuminati is what we call them. And they're again, they're nice. Some of them are nice people. They're good people. It's not that we're just making fun of you because you have to be made fun of, because you look ridiculous and you're acting a little. And it is what it is. It's humans being humans, and there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just fun to poke at because we're all on our path, and people need to lighten up because all this seriousness isn't getting us anywhere. We have to just smile and laugh at each other and say, "Oh, cool. Well, what good do you have to share with me?" That's what I want. Here's my good. What is your good? Because most people, I shouldn't say everybody. Some people are lost in the sauce, and they're out there just being weird, but most of us are very good people. We're very good people with the right intentions. So, We all just got to drop our guards down and say, okay, how can we help each other?
Yeah, man. I love it.
Where can people find you? Where can people work with you? Where can our listeners consume more of you?
My Instagram is the biggest form of social media right now for me. It's Ian McCall. Athlete's Journey Home has its own. The McCall Method has its own. Athlete's Journey Home is my nonprofit. McCall Method is my for-profit. And then my regular Instagram just shows everything I'm doing. That's where it all is. And once I can have more funds to have somebody run all the rest of the stuff, that everything will kind of look a little better and well maintained. But I'm just one person right now who's got a lot on my plate. So if you guys can go to the website, Athlete's Journey Home, there's a donate button about 2/3 of the way down. And yeah, there's just a lot of information on there that you guys can digest. And as always, I praise the people that I work with. You know, if that's the flavor of person you want to talk to, go talk to them. You know, there's so many good people in this space to help. So help is on the way.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.